Well, I guess it's noon, so let's begin. My name is Jerry Hauser, and I'm a faculty ombuds at CU. And I'm glad that you were able to join with me this afternoon. I want to talk about a topic titled "Dancing with Foes," and it's concerned with rethinking negotiation. Now, a lot of us have been in situations where we had ideas that we wanted to present and we've been a part of a team and it was a new idea and we had to negotiate with our teammates about this idea, or we've had to see our a person that we report to and we've had to negotiate some opportunity that's come up, and it requires that we're going to have to present an idea, and that idea is going to get a response. And often what we fear in these situations is that the response is going to be pushback. And so now we have to think about, what are we going to do when we have pushback in these situations? I think most of us probably regard this as a situation we're going to face with dread, as conflict, perhaps, that's going to be a tussle, and that it's going to be a zero-sum game in which there's a winner and a loser. In fact, our way of talking and thinking about arguments encourages us to have this dread about how we're going to handle differences of opinion. I want to draw on the work by some researchers who have been concerned with how we think. The first pair, who did research on metaphors and thinking, George Lakoff and Mark Johnson. The second is an organizational psychologist, Adam Grant. First, I want to talk about the metaphor specialists. My area of specialization is communication. And in that regard, I would taught about metaphors quite often. And a number of years ago, I came across this book by Johnson and Lakoff. Johnson is a philosopher, Lakoff is a linguist, and their book Metaphors We Live By was greatly influential. And they argued that our responses to situations are conditioned by the metaphoric systems we use to describe them. These metaphoric systems are ideas that cluster around the metaphors we use, and these systems tend to shape how we experience things. That sounds pretty abstract. Let me make it really concrete. Here's a metaphor that every one of us has used. Time is money. And here's the system. You're wasting my time. This gadget will save you hours. How did you spend your time today? I've invested a lot of time in her. He's living on borrowed time. Lakoff and Johnson said systems like time is money are extensive, they're pervasive, and they color our thoughts and experiences. So it comes to dealing with pushback. It's not hard to explain why most people regard such disagreements with dread. What's the metaphoric system we associate with argument? Liz Hill, are you there? Why don't you tell me what you associate with argument?
Hey, Jerry, I am here. What do I associate with argument?
Argument is?
For me, I would say it's an opportunity.
Oh, Liz, you're not fair. You're Kunta Hutabarat, what do you associate?
Disagreement.
Yes, disagreement. We have disagreement, and is disagreement plus or comfortable or uncomfortable for you?
The disagreement will be uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Most of us associate argument as war. And why would I say that? Because we commonly think about and experience arguments as battles to the end. And so we talk about defending our ground. We cast the other party as an opponent we need to defeat. We try to win the argument. And this helps explain why many people anticipate having a disagreement will be unpleasant and possibly have negative repercussions. Any of you who may have been involved in forensics when you were in high school were acculturated to think about this. You had to win the argument and defeat your opponent. And often when we just talk about everyday situations, I won the argument, I defeated my opponent. So as a result, we think of arguments as war. We adopt a communicative strategies we think will help us defeat the other party and win. And we slip into mindsets that help us win. We become preachers who deliver sermons to protect our sacred ideals, or we become prosecutors who see flaws in the other person's reasoning, and we marshal arguments to prove them wrong, or we become politicians who seek to prevail by persuading others to our side and by lobbying for their approval, although we often rile them up instead of opening their minds. So let's consider a case where negotiation might occur. And I think I have a scenario here called Rosie's Burritos. And I think that this probably did not get out for enough of you to read it. So what I'm going to do now is bring that up and we'll go through it pretty quickly, okay? So let me find here where I want to do this. And I want to do this. And I want to do this. Okay. So Rosie works in an office with about a dozen coworkers. Rosie's a skilled cook and makes burritos, which she brings to work for lunch. One day she's eating her burrito in the lunchroom when coworkers mention that it smells and looks divine. Rosie offers her a taste. I want you to be thinking here about this conflict that's going to emerge and how you might help Rosie and her counterpart address it. Her colleague gushes, "So good, Rosie, you should go into business." The next day, another coworker says he heard about the burritos. Rosie offers a taste and her colleague is blown away. Soon Rosie's coworkers hear about her burritos and start asking whether Rosie would make one for them. They say they'll pay. Rosie says, sure, but the charge will be nominal. She only wants to cover her costs plus a little overhead for her time. The response is enthusiastic and word spreads, creating demand for Rosie's burritos. Rosie is making a lot of burritos every night, and this leads her to rethink her position. She could market her burritos, charge a little more, and with volume sales, make some extra cash, which certainly she could use. She gives it a try. Rosie prepares an order form she circulates personally, contacting those in her office and some others on her floor. She explains her lunch service and gives them an order form. If interested, all they need to do is give her the form the day before and pay her when they pick up their burrito. People are placing orders, Rosie is providing lunch, business is good. Soon enough, however, the boss, Harold, hears about it. He thinks, what's going on? I'm not paying Rosie to market the catering business. I'm not paying Rosie to drum up business and distribute lunch to on office time. And I'm not paying my people to make lunch transactions during work. She needs to tend to her work assignment, not her side business. Harold tells Rosie, shut it down. Rosie's not taking this quietly. She figures her burrito business is not conflicting with her work. She asks for a mediated meeting to negotiate their differences. Her co-workers who really like the burritos also are not taking Harold's actions lying down. When Rosie lobbies them for support, they are receptive. They put pressure on Harold to keep the burritos coming. Harold senses Rosie's support could have adverse morale and productivity consequences if he doesn't change his mind. However, Harold is also getting blowback from his managerial peers who express concern this entrepreneurial spirit will become infectious. Then they'll have to deal with similar ventures in their unit. They lobby him to stay firm. Meanwhile, the division head has caught wind of Rosie's burrito business. He starts asking questions about whether there's a Sub Rosa vending operation in Harold's shop. Harold is feeling caught between competing forces, sensing his people support Rosie's burrito business, feeling peer pressure from other unit managers, worrying about institutional policies, feeling competing matrices are at work for evaluating his leadership, such as unit productivity, versus allowing a Sub Rosa business to flourish in his unit. He decides he must act. But this isn't something he can decide from top down without being exposed to criticism and possibly legal action. He agrees to Rosie's request for mediated meeting to negotiate their differences. Okay, so I'd like you to put into your chat a couple of arguments you might make for to support Rosie, and a couple that you might put to support Harold. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. For shutting down, creates liability the company will need to clear. Does she need a vendor permit? What do local ordinance say? Liability insurance, but okay. Outlining what would he need to continue the business may dissuade Rosie. All right. Burrito business isn't interfering with her work, so what's the problem? Very good, Patrice. Harold, Rosie is conducting personal business on company and personal time. Okay. On property and time. Okay. Kunta, as long as she keeps up her work results, she'll be okay. She's all right. Good. Those are all really terrific. Let's go back to let's keep those in mind. We're going to return to Rosie in a little while, but before we but right now I want to turn to some other considerations. Okay, and let me find out where we are in our flow of things. Well, I managed to put my script someplace that okay, here we go. It happens to the best of us. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so now I want to turn to Adam Grant, who has written Think Again, a book I came upon this spring and I thought made an awful lot of sense. Grant's main argument is that we negotiate differences. We need to encourage rethinking, and we need to rethink our position, but if we also need to encourage our partner to rethink theirs. And he really does focus on disagreements and says, well, a good debate we often think about as war, but it's more like a dance that has yet to be choreographed with a partner who has a different set of steps in mind. So he sets out to point out some of the reasons that are some of the differences between a war and thinking about argument as a dance that has yet to be choreographed with this partner who has a different set of steps in mind. In war, we attempt to gain ground, we not lose it, so we're afraid to surrender a few battles. In negotiation, in a negotiation, we change our mindset to trying to find ways to choreograph our thinking with our partner. And this requires a couple of things. It requires agreeing with someone else's arguments when they make a good point. That's an important point to keep in mind. The second is that we agreeing with the arguments of someone who thinks they are at odds with you is disarming. It makes dancing in rhythm easier. So Grant looked at a bunch of research that was conducted about negotiators, average negotiators and expert negotiators. And what he found was that average negotiators go in armed for battle. They think about all of the reasons to support their case. They're thinking about how they're going to defend their position so that they can win. They try to marshal as many reasons as possible to support their case. They enter into attack defend spirals. So they attack what the other party has said or they defend what they're saying, and they go back and forth, more or less like fencers who are thrust and parry. And they seldom ask questions. Expert negotiators, on the other hand, behave differently. The first thing that they did was devote more than a third of planning time to finding common ground. They worried about what is it that the other side holds and where do we come together with them. They present fewer reasons to support their case rather than more. What are our key arguments? Let's just focus on our key arguments. They express curiosity. Why is this happening? What's going on in our office? What's going on in this particular policy area? Why is it taking place? And that every fifth statement ended with a question. What these expert negotiators were doing from Grant's perspective is they were trying to dance to the same beat. And dancing to the same beat means that you need to find common ground. By devoting more than a third of their thinking to finding planning time to finding common ground, they were increasing the opportunity for them to dance in coordination with their counterpart. So how do you find common ground? Well, most people try to find common ground by attacking, most of us go into an argument by looking for a straw man. What is some way we can caricature the other person's position and defeat it? These experts did the opposite thing. Most people start, rather than starting with a straw man's to poke holes in the weakest version of the other side, they look for the steel man. The steel man in your partner's argument. What's their strongest point? What can I learn from it? What can I accept that is valid for me? By doing that, you're finding common ground. And when you're finding common ground, what you're doing is avoiding stepping on your partner's toes. Allows you to say, you and I agree on these things. What it does is it pointing out areas of agreement reduces the areas of disagreement. It points out areas of alignment. It emphasizes where you may have learned from your partner. And this shows you have good motives. It signals that you are not a preacher or a prosecutor or a politician, but you're a scientist who's seeking the truth. It shows you're willing to listen, such as acknowledging good points that they make. So it's a sign you're a reasonable person. So the first thing is to look for the steel man in the other person's argument to find common ground. And then present fewer reasons to support your case. You don't have to refute every point made by your opponent. If there are too many arguments that you raise, you're going to dilute their power. If there are fewer arguments, on the other hand, you have less to defend, more time to explain each one better. There's interesting research on this that shows that the more the topic matters to people, the more the quality of reasons matter. So when audiences are skeptical of our view, they have a stake in the issue. They tend to be stubborn. Piling on justifications tends to backfire. If they're resistant to thinking, more reasons simply provide more ammunition for shooting you down. It's not just the number of reasons, but how they fit together. And so that's why thinking about it as a dance, choreographing our moves, getting reasons that are fewer but fit together well is a better chance to success. Second thing is that the closer the source, the more convincing the argument. What does that mean? It means that we want to bring the source inside the person we're talking with. Since antiquity, we've known that the most persuasive person who's likely to convince you is you. So they express curiosity. Find out why they hold the view. What's important to them? Express curiosity about why your team may have failed in the past, which may encourage reshaping criteria. Raise questions frequently. By posing questions to contemplate, you make a listener an active partner in the thought process. The most persuasive arguments are the arguments we make to ourselves. So posing questions that promote active thinking generates a discussion, and that invites your counterpart to be your partner rather than your adversary. Well, sometimes adversaries are inevitable, and they may become a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hostile. So what do you do when someone becomes hostile? If you respond by viewing the argument as war, you either attack or defend. If you treat the negotiation as a dance, you have another option. You can sidestep. For example, having a conversation about the conversation, a sidestep, shifts attention away from the substance of the disagreement and towards the process for having a dialogue. The more anger and hostility the other person expresses, the more curiosity and interest you show. So because when somebody's losing control, your tranquility is going to be a sign of strength. So this is a fifth move that expert negotiators made more often than average negotiators. They were more likely to comment on their feelings about the process and test their understanding of the other side's feelings. Imagine now you're negotiating and you've come in with your data and your report, and you're getting this hostile response from your superior. I'm disappointed, you might say, in the way this discussion has unfolded. Are you frustrated with it? I was hoping you'd see this proposal as fair. Do I understand you correctly that you don't see any merit in this approach at all? Honestly, I'm a little confused by your reaction to my data. If you don't value the kind of work I do, why do you assign it to me? So in a heated argument, can always stop and ask, what evidence would change your mind? If the answer is nothing, there's no point in continuing the debate. Finally, I want to point to noting the strength of weak arguments. When you hit a brick wall, You don't have to stop talking altogether. We often say, let's agree to disagree, but that shouldn't end a discussion. It should start a new conversation to focus on understanding and learning rather than arguing and persuading. Approach it like scientists. Instead of holding weak opinions strongly, which can backfire, try communicating an opinion with some uncertainty. Communicating some uncertainty about your position often signals confident humility. It invites curiosity. It leads to more nuanced discussion. Studies, in fact, support this. Studies of jurors show that expert witnesses and deliberating jurors are more credible and more persuasive when they express modest confidence rather than high or low confidence. So by asking questions, rather than thinking for an audience, we invite them to join us as a partner and think for themselves. By considering the strongest version of the opponent's perspective and limiting our responses to our few best steps, we have a better chance of finding rhythm. So, devote more than a third of planning to finding common ground, present fewer reasons to support your case, express curiosity, frequently have statements that end in a question, and when hostility emerges, comment on the feelings about the process inside feelings. Let's go back to Rosie. What might you change in your advice to Harold and Rosie to rethink their negotiation as a dance? You can put that in the chat. Lynn, that's a good observation. Rosie can ask Harold what his concerns are and what could alleviate them. All right, Lila, maybe Harold should try one of Rosie's burritos and let them speak for themselves. Laura's made a good one here. They can likely both agree that the morale of employees is important. Start there. Okay. Kunta, I wonder what will go wrong if I allow this business going forward. Harold can ask Rosie how she will ensure it does not encroach on work output. Okay, that's reasonable, Lynn. Aaron, Harold should ask Rosie how she balances her daily work with the side business if there are any conflicts. Notice what's happening in these, and we're just about out of time, but notice what's happening. You are trying to find arguments where the two of them can come together, but you're also providing, if Rosie's answers can satisfy Harold, Harold is now getting arguments that he can use with his superiors and his peers. So I think that's showing a kind of thinking together that helps them both. Hey, thanks a lot. I sorry I lost my pages there and lost my place, and I hope you found this useful.
Jerry, I'm going to put in the chat a feedback survey. We would love for people to take a moment and click on the link and provide feedback about today's Lunch and Learn and about topics that you are interested in seeing in the future. So thank you very much.